Hello and welcome to the show, Move or Improve with Debbie. I'm Debbie Miller and I'm glad you joined me today. I'm going to be doing a series of programs over the next few weeks it's titled Home Sweet Home, but it's going to talk about what kinds of homes might be available for you to think about if you're going to move to another location or just switch and give up the big house for something more readily maintainable. And before we start that, I'm going to talk about several different types of housing that are available, but I want to talk about what the housing market looks like today. That's very important because that's going to influence what you choose and how to time the purchase. So in the US, more than half of households, 65 million, are headed by somebody 50 years of age or older. And by 2030, that number will be more than 130 million. Yes, I said 130 million. Their housing preferences are as varied as their finances, health, and living situations, and they all require and want different types of housing to meet their housing needs both now and as they age. Unfortunately, though, affordable housing that's physically accessible and conveniently located near support and services is lacking. Housing costs are high, and they force a third of adults over the age of 50 to spend more than 30% of their income for housing that may or may not be suitable for them. Spending that much can often require them to cut back on food or making improvements to their current home to ensure their safety for the long term, and that costs money and takes away from the value of the house. Many of them don't or shouldn't drive, which can make them feel isolated from various support services, friends, or family. Now, younger baby boomers in their 50s may not be able to pay for the right kind of housing or long-term care they need when they retire. Heads of households who are now in their 50s to mid-60s may struggle to pay for housing and basic living needs. Affordable, accessible housing in age-friendly areas that are close to hospitals and doctors is in short supply. Baby boomers who do own their own home and are at least 65 years of age, you should be able to plan on being able to cover the cost of in-home assistance for about 9 years or assisted living between 6 and 7 years. If you've saved for retirement, this will not be an issue. However, many of baby boomers have not been able to save. Much of the existing housing stock is also aging, and it wasn't built to accommodate the ability to age in place. And the cost to remodel may not be in the budget for this group. There are a diverse number of living arrangements too, and I'm going to be talking about that in each of my segments. So stay tuned as I get down the road to each week. Most adults in their 50s have children living at home. Most households in their 60s either live alone or as a couple. 44% of those over age 65 are married or have a partner, and 43% are single. 75% of people between the ages of 75% of people between the ages of 50 and 64 live in single-family homes. 76% of people ages 65 to 79 also live in a single-family home, and 68% who are over the age of 80, they stay in their single-family home. Many older adults are in co-housing arrangements, whether it be with their children or parents or relatives. There's also an increase in older adults who live like the women in the TV show The Golden Girls. Remember that show? Necessity is the mother of invention. And as the boomers age, they realize they're entering their golden years with more debt, not only mortgage, but personal debt. Multi-generational living arrangements are increasing as well. Adults in 65 to 79 years of age range are the most likely age to live in a multi-generational environment. Multi-generational generally includes at least 2 generations, often 3 or more, living under the same roof on the same piece of land in their own space. Adults in the 65 to 79 age range often live in their own homes and include younger family members. And older adults over 80 are more likely to live in someone else's home. Many homebuyers purchase a multi-generational home to take care of aging parents and to save on costs, or because adult children, for many reasons, are having to move back, whether it be divorce or they can't make it on their own or they lost their job. 1 in 5 buyers aged 53 to 62 purchased a multi-generational home. The second largest share, according to the National Association of Realtors, were those buyers 72 to 92 years of age. A mixture of ages results in the grandparents helping to get the grandchildren ready in the morning, or a younger member can help care for an aging adult. The population of people living in the multi-generational households has doubled since 1980, according to the Pew Research Center. Home ownership tends to rise as people age, but after the age of 80, home ownership drops and renting becomes more prevalent. But younger adults have not had the opportunity to build wealth for retirement through equity in their homes, so they may rent a little longer. We're seeing now that millennials are starting to move into the home purchase category, and they will make a big impact because there's so many of them. There's more in the millennial age group than there are baby boomers. And many older adults are less apt to move as they age. They know their neighborhood, they like the surroundings, and there are a few affordable options which might encourage them to move, but not necessarily. Senior apartments and independent living communities and assisted living facilities are increasing, but the demand far outweighs the supply. In 2009, the Census Bureau began tracking completion of these types of housing, and only 319,000 age-restricted units were added as new construction since that time. So clearly the shortage is acute. Many baby boomers decide through necessity to continue working either part-time or full-time, and more of them have a mortgage, which for owners on the lower end of the wealth spectrum may result in them not having the resources for other things like travel, food, medical needs, and more. Now, companies like Del Webb and other builders in the active adult arena recognize this, and they're taking steps to fill voids in this area. Del Webb is opening 10 active adult communities in Florida, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, Nevada, North Carolina, and Virginia. Lennar is another builder who's developed housing solutions for baby boomers by creating multi-generational housing. Welltower has been focusing on senior housing for the affluent, but now sees the middle-income senior market as an area full of opportunity. And this is a good thing because that age group and income level has been ignored. The trend is to combine hospitality with healthcare instead of thinking the two as separate possibilities. And the upsweep in master plan communities has gotten the attention of builders because they see that they can have multi-generational living for everyone, and they can include assisted living and end-of-life facilities for the baby boomers and their parents. Now, baby boomers tend to be outside the box thinkers, and they will radically change the way they approach housing as they get older. The issue is how fast will it happen, because they're not moving along too well. One of the problems baby boomers are finding is that if they do want to downsize and move and sell the home, there's not a whole lot of options. You either go to an active adult community or a condo, or you can go to a master plan community, but those are in short supply. And they're often competing with millennials who are just starting out and want a entry-level home, which is what the baby boomers also want in many situations. The graying of America begs for visionaries to diversify and develop housing for older renters and owners. Between now and the year 2040, the 65-plus population will increase by about 90%. Housing will not be ready for it at that rate. The number of households aged 80 or more will be nearly 15 million. So the creation of safe, accessible, and affordable senior housing is a crushing dilemma. According to the National Investment Center for Seniors Housing and Care at the University of Chicago, Harvard Medical School, and University of Maryland School of Medicine, by 2029, which isn't that far away, There will be roughly 14 million middle-income older adults in the U.S., and just over half won't have the financial resources to pay for senior living at today's market rate. Many older household members rely on Social Security benefits as their primary income source, but Social Security payments don't keep up with the rise in rents. When housing costs eat up a large part of household budgets, older adults will often sacrifice on other necessities like their health care or medicine or food. Baby boomers are just now recovering from the wealth they lost in the 2006 to 2009 housing market. They have too much debt, their home equity hasn't recovered, and larger homes sit on the market longer because younger buyers don't want or need or can't afford that kind of McMansion-style house. More baby boomers are staying in their homes longer because they're working longer and they still have children at home. These homebodies feel that there are few housing options for them if they sell. Eventually, though, the houses they live in will become too much to maintain and they will have to sell. But think about what might happen if the boomers stay in their homes and then start selling in a mass exodus when they're older. After all, right now, baby boomers currently own 32 million homes, which really translates into 2 out of every 5 in the U.S. So if only 5% of them sell at any given time, that's an influx of about 1,600,000 homes flooding the market. Will the younger generations coming up through the ranks want this type of home? And what will that do to your home values? Millennials don't want McMansions and oversized homes with too many rooms. There may be many houses that either aren't sold or they just sit longer due to the lack of buyers interested in that type of house. It may be that financing programs will be developed that encourage millennials and others to purchase first-time homes so they can build equity to purchase the larger homes that baby boomers own, but that's going to take time. If baby boomers can't get the price they want for their home, they may decide to wait it out till the economy improves. The boomers will have to choose whether they want to stay where they are in a house that's too large, sell at a possible loss, or sell and then rent if they can't get a good price for their home. 2 things are inevitable: health issues or death will force them into making a decision. Demand for affordable, accessible housing will increase as the baby boomers start to turn 80 in less than 10 years. Today, there's a serious shortage of accessible housing, as well as smaller homes that would enable you to downsize, especially in light of the growing numbers of older adults who need it. Less than 5% of U.S. homes have single-floor living, and the much-needed wider hallways and doorways, that number doesn't even include the electric switches and lever-style handles on doors or easy-to-use faucets or bathrooms with curbless showers that need to be involved. Clearly, there is a market for home modification. According to the National Association of Home Builders, many contractors and others in the remodeling industry are doing more to make homes accessible, even if it's just improving the access in a bathroom or a walkway or improving lighting inside and outside the home. Over half the owners older than 55 account for more than half of the home improvements, and that number will grow enormously in the next 5 to 10 years. According to the National Association of Realtors, at least 30 to 40% of home buyers are looking for multi-generational housing or a property that could be converted into housing for grandparents, parents, and children. Many have focused on the overall lack of senior housing, and that's a major crisis facing our country. But it's more than that. There's a shortage of starter home inventory, and retirees are competing with Generation X, who were born between 1965 and